Good.
Okay. Well, Sheriff, you have some new information about a murder case. Could you tell us about it?
Yes, June 6, 2019, Callaway Sheriff's Office investigated what ended up being a murder scene along the north outer road of Interstate 70, just inside Callaway County from Boone County, at around the Millersburg exit of I-70. The victim of that murder incident was identified as Laura Garza Perez. Typical of any murder investigation, a significant investigation immediately began. Assisting agencies included the Columbia Police Department, the Boone County Sheriff's Office, Highway Patrol, DDCC, and federal agents. During the course of that investigation, it became apparent that this murder was part of a significant drug nexus here in the central Missouri area. Complicated investigation, to say the least. But with the fine work of all the detectives, investigators, within 5 days on June 11th of 2019, criminal arrest warrants were issued for Ruben Cabrera and Emily Ricketts, both from Columbia, Missouri. Those arrest warrants were for murder in the first degree. It was determined, though, that both Miss Ricketts and Mr. Cabrera had already made it to the country of Mexico, where Mr. Cabrera is from. Over the last 3 years, 3.5 years nearly, we have worked behind the scenes very extensively with federal agents, namely the United States Marshal Service, Borders Custom Enforcement, ICE, and also here locally we have continued to work with the Columbia Police Department and the Boone County Sheriff's Office because Cabrera and Ricketts still maintain local connections in the Columbia area. So all the assisting agencies, especially here locally, have been very gracious. We owe a great deal of gratitude to both Columbia PD and the Boone County Sheriff's Office, and certainly owe a lot of appreciation to the federal agents both here and abroad. Nearly 3.5 years later, we was notified early Tuesday morning or overnight Monday, ever how you want to look at it, that Miss Ricketts was located in the country of Mexico. She was taken into custody by Mexico authorities, transported to the U.S. port of entry near San Diego, California. It was there that the country of Mexico officials transferred her to the custody of the United States Marshal Service, and the marshals have since taken her to the San Diego County Jail in San Diego, California, where she remains in custody without bond. An extradition hearing is scheduled to be held this afternoon in San Diego. At some point, whether it's sooner or later, depending how that extradition hearing goes, we have a team of deputies that will travel to San Diego, California, and transport her to the Callaway County Jail here in Fulton. And upon arrival, the local court proceedings here in Callaway County will begin. If there's any takeaways I would offer from this is it was a good example of agencies working together to bring, obviously, a violent person into custody. Mr. Cabrera still remains outstanding. No doubt he's likely in the country of Mexico as well, and efforts to locate him will continue. But we do have one of the two in custody. And another takeaway I would offer is, even though it's been 3.5 years and it would be easy for one to believe the case had gone cold, as many times we hear that term used, it may be cold to the public eye, but it was really hot here at the office. Again, our investigators have been working with federal agents and local agents as well for almost 3.5 years now to bring this to a resolution, and we're halfway there. And we'll continue the efforts to get Mr. Cabrera brought back to the United States, to Callaway County, Missouri, to answer to the charges as well.
Ms. Ricketts is in custody. Is there any indication that she might give you information on where Mr. Cabrera is?
That is yet to be determined.
Is that a possibility, or would you work out a deal with her maybe or something?
Well, as a law enforcement officer, we don't work deals. We collect the facts as they present themselves, and ultimately it would be up to the court whether they wanted to have grace or mercy for information to assist in bringing the other person into custody. That's not a decision we make. We just collect the evidence, collect the facts, and present them to the court. Once Miss Ricketts is returned to Callaway County, we will take the appropriate steps thereafter.
Was the victim from this area?
Yes, the victim was from originally the country of Mexico, but he was residing in the Columbia, Missouri area as well.
Would you say that, over these past few years, he's had, family and people who have been kind of wanting these answers?
Absolutely, absolutely. Not that just one mere arrest is going to bring closure, but it's a step in the right direction. It's definitely a step in the right direction.
Was the victim involved with the drug nexus, as you refer to it?
Without going into details as to the victim's involvement, I can certainly confirm this situation is definitely a part of a large drug nexus in the central Missouri area that had been occurring. As sheriff, I can tell you this is yet another example. It's really aggravating when you hear others say drugs are nonviolent crime, because this here's another example of drugs are not always nonviolent crimes, and people die because of it.
Is there reason to believe that the drug nexus is still going on? You said there might be some more arrests coming out of that in the near future?
This case remains open. There is a possibility that additional evidence that comes forth could lead to additional arrest and or charges. The door is not shut on this case, even with an arrest.
Did you give any details of the actual murder scene too? I mean, how was this victim killed? Did you release all that information?
Yes, it's publicly available information in a probable cause statement. Multiple gunshot wounds.
Was it pretty violent then?
Absolutely.
How violent was it? I mean, you're saying it's a violent crime.
Considering it was on video and myself and investigators have watched it, it's horrific. And again, it certainly brings even more aggravation when you hear, again, drugs are nonviolent. We shouldn't worry about them. People die because of drug nexuses and deals and transactions, and things go bad.
I guess the only thing I can ask you now is you still have one suspect you're looking for. How active is your department involved with that investigation, even though he's in Mexico?
We are maintaining constant communication with federal authorities. And again, just because he's in Mexico, he still has connections to the Columbia, Missouri area. So we're talking to associates of his, relatives of his, and any information we get is to exactly where he's at and how he can be brought into custody is being shared with our federal agents here in the States, who is then sharing it with the Mexico officials that they work hand in hand with through agreements, and we will continue on keeping on.
Can I ask you, what evidence led you to these two suspects?
An array of evidence. Again, anytime there's a murder investigation, multiple agencies come together, whether it's the activation of a case squad or just having other agencies help us on an informal agreement, which is what occurred here. Again, right after this, literally when this investigation began, we immediately solicited the assistance of the Columbia Police Department, the Boone County Sheriff's Office, and the Highway Patrol DDCC unit to bring multiple investigators to the table, track down leads. And again, within 5 days, we had these 2 arrest warrants for Ricketts and Cabrera. But in those 5 days, they had made it to the country of Mexico, which certainly hampers efforts, to put it lightly. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Yeah, we're going to need the spellings and names and all that stuff. I wonder if
I'll email.
the original story. I can't remember.
I'll email.